the clients are not always operating, or potential clients are not always working on your timeline, right? They have a lot of things happening on their end, and sometimes they disappear. And having your sales pipeline logged in an opportunity record in the CRM that helps you to see when was the last time I pinged them, what came up in that conversation, was he okay with me reaching out to him 2 weeks later? Was he okay if I checked in with him 3 or a month later? You know, and that's what helps, because then you see, oh yeah, actually I talked and he said it was okay to reach out back in November, which I did, and then he said still not ready. Check back with me in 3 months, and then you put yourself a reminder. Hey, 3 months from now, I need to email this person, and it's there. It's sitting on your opportunity pipeline. It's not falling through the cracks. It's not occupying space in your brain either. You know, you can give full attention to your existing clients and get things done. 3 months later, you have that popping up, that reminder, and then you reach out, and then boom, things move.
Are you looking for ways to shorten your marketing learning curve and help your organization survive and thrive? Welcome to Relish This, the Purpose Marketing Podcast, a show for purpose-focused leaders who want to use marketing techniques to fuel their organization's growth. If you're a returning listener and you haven't subscribed already, we'd love to have you. Also, please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Now here's your host, author and marketing specialist, Stu Swineford.
Hey everybody, Stu here. If you've ever been curious about adding a CRM to your toolkit to help manage your donors or customer integrations, or essentially all of the things that help keep your business moving forward and help you create predictability and consistency in your outreach, then today's episode is for you. My guest is Lidiane Mocko, and she is just an amazing resource for all things CRM. So CRM is a customer relations management tool. And a lot of times nonprofits think that they don't need those. However, if you can track and do a better job of keeping in touch with your people who've reached out to inquire, people who have donated in the past, et cetera, it gives you a much, much stronger opportunity to transform those people into repeat donors or bigger donors, or even just maintaining your volunteer base and understanding how you're communicating with them. So I think a CRM is a very valuable tool for any organization, including nonprofits. And Liddy's just great about it. She runs a company called CRM Growth Strategy. And we just had a really great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. And here we go. Liddy, how you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really excited to chat with you. Just a little note for the listeners, I am recording today in a co-working space here in Netherlands, so it might be a little bit more echoey than normal on my end. We had some internet challenges at my house, and so I just jammed down to Ned here to talk with Liddy about customer relations management and how important that is for organizations of any type. So I'm really happy to have you on the show today, Liddy.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to join you and share my experiences with you and with your audience. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I think we were introduced by Jeff Kinsey, who was also on the show. So it's really cool to see how the Relish This community is kind of growing and how everybody's kind of intertwined. It's really fun to see. How did you and Jeff first meet?
Yeah, so I met Jeff through Good Business Colorado.
Fantastic. I'm a member of that as well.
Yeah, and then I found out that Jeff has done some work with the executive director of another organization that is my client. So that connection also came up.
That's fantastic. Which organization is that?
Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute.
Okay, cool. I haven't met those guys yet, but hopefully we'll be introduced to them. That sounds like a cool place to have people that I can talk with. So tell us what you do at CRM Growth Strategy.
Yeah, so CRM Growth Strategy is the third rebrand
Okay.
of my business. Things changed, and at some point, you there's this urge to adjust the brand to be more aligned with how we're showing up, right?
Right.
So this rebrand happened over the turn of the year, 2021 to 2022. I started my business back in 2014. So my background was as a software engineer. I worked in the broadcast industry for years and years. I am an immigrant. I am Brazilian and American. I was naturalized American in 2015. And this seems like all random stuff about me, but they're not, because they all contributed to me and my urge to end up having my business and embracing. I think entrepreneurship for me is embracing that true spirit of being American.
Right.
So, I went back to school in 2012. I got an MBA at the University of Denver. And when I finished the MBA program, I started my business. Funny that Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute came up because they were my client zero.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, I was at DU when I met Rob Smith, which was one of the founders and the executive director of RMMFI for a very long time. He recently stepped away from it, but that's how my business started, really, and it's funny. Rob means a lot to me in RMMFI because at that point in time, I was, am I going to start a business? Am I going to get a job? And that experience with RMMFI doing pro bono consulting and helping them with Salesforce helped me to feel confident enough to take the next step and move forward with my business.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you came from an engineering background and then kind of found your zone in Salesforce specifically, it sounds like.
Not exactly. So Salesforce was my client zero. I knew Salesforce was going to be a part of it because, it's such a strong player in the cloud-based CRM space.
Yeah.
But when I first started, my goal was to help small business owners with cloud-based systems in general.
Okay.
And then a couple of years into it, I was doing just CRM. So then I rebranded to Small Business CRM Coach.
Okay.
And at the time, I was trying to do like coaching. I did a coaching program, and I created an online course, and I wanted to coach people to use CRM. And with that, I learned that it's not that simple.
All right.
Most people don't want that. Most people want either that I do it for them or a little bit more hand holding through the process. So that's why, I rebranded to CRM Growth Strategy, because now I'm seeing myself working more with organizations that are growing, have more users, and we are expanding, the use of the CRM system into tracking more business processes within the system.
So where do you see people really needing to take the leap from, tracking in spreadsheets or whatever they have been doing historically to using a CRM? Is there a period of time that you say, yeah, once you've gotten to this level, you need to make that leap?
Good question. I think so. From my perspective, of course, and my my mindset, like I think from day one, it's good to have, even if it is a free CRM, to start
Hmm.
tracking your connections, people who you meet, networking, and building your database. Because the small organizations are so community focused, right?
Hmm.
Um, Realistically, though, a lot of people are not ready to bite that into it. So that being said, I think that the 3 to 5 years is a good window, because if you've been in business for more than 3 years, then you're starting to get to a place where you have enough activities going on that justify you being in business for 3 years, and having a CRM will help you to make sure things don't fall through the cracks.
Right.
So that's that 3 to 5 year window for me is when I get a client that is in that window and they are thinking about the CRM, it's because they want to make sure things are not falling through the cracks. That's the ideal starting point.
Gotcha. So most people start to recognize that there may be opportunities that they're missing or things that they're forgetting to do. And since they're not tracking that stuff in the CRM or in an effective way, that's where plugging in that tool can become a really effective part of their marketing and outreach and just tracking. I assume.
Yes, I think so. Going back to how does the CRM help in terms of avoiding things from falling through the cracks, right? A lot of organizations are more on this business to business space.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens in the business to business space? What happens is that a business project or a contract, it's not transactional. It's not that someone shows up in somebody else's website and say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to purchase this $10,000 project right now."
Right.
It's no, you don't get it off the shelf, right? There is a lot of work or a lot of things that happen in terms of you meet someone and then you see them again and then you see them 3 more times before they feel like they really know and trust you to feel comfortable to refer you to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start talking to a potential client, again, it you start that conversation today, and you do the steps that you need to do in order to move that client along. But the clients are not always operating, or potential clients are not always working on your timeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of things happening on their end, and sometimes they disappear. And having your sales pipeline logged in an opportunity record in the CRM that helps you to see when was the last time I pinged them,
Right.
what came up in that conversation, was he okay with me reaching out to him 2 weeks later? Was he okay if I checked in with him 3 or a month later? You know, and that's what helps, because then you see, oh yeah, actually I talked and he said it was okay to reach out back in November, which I did, and then he said still not ready. Check back with me in 3 months, and then you put yourself a reminder. Hey, 3 months from now, I need to email this person. And it's there. It's sitting on your opportunity pipeline. It's not falling through the cracks. It's not occupying space in your brain either. you know
Yeah.
you can give full attention to your existing clients and get things done. 3 months later, you have that popping up, that reminder, and then you reach out, and then boom, things move. and
Right.
and I'm telling you this, there's a specific client that happened, recently with me. Like we were back and forth for months, and I don't know, I'm going to keep asking. And I'm glad I kept asking, because now we started with an initial project, and now we are moving forward to a new engagement.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing when you, when you can track that stuff and keep on top of it. I remember one instance where we had a 2-year sales cycle on a client, where I first started talking to them, and 2 years later, they finally said, yeah, let's do this. So had I not been keeping up with that client and providing not only just touch bases, but valuable information all along that time frame, they wouldn't have become a client. So it's just super cool how a CRM can help you stay on top of that stuff.
Yeah, and it helps you to understand that sales cycle, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't even have an understanding of that, because they're not collecting the data. They don't have anything to look at over time to understand that sometimes there is an ideal client that shows up, and they need you so much that within 2 weeks, boom, you're in. But there are others who have more things going on, and it can take 3 to 6 months or up to 2 years.
Yeah. It's really funny. Excuse me. It's just really interesting how when you don't track it, you just don't know. And a lot of times I'll ask clients what their sales cycle looks like, and maybe they don't know, or how long does it usually take, and I just get either blank stares or kind of hemming and hawing about about how long it usually takes, and it's interesting how when you have that data, you can then make vastly different, more educated decisions about what to do next.
Yes.
Do you see? There are lots of nonprofits out there who may think that they don't need a CRM. How have you seen nonprofits leverage the power of a CRM to improve their donations, acquisition, and communications in general?
Oh my God, that's a big question. Yeah, so I can talk more broadly. I think in terms of nonprofits using the CRM to track their donations, Salesforce has the nonprofit starter pack. A lot of my clients use that. And ways that I've been able to see them leveraging the information is with the nonprofit starter pack, you can pull reports like who donated this year and didn't donate last year, or who donated last year and hasn't donated this year yet. So doing those types of reports, then they can see who showed up and target those specific donors to improve their numbers and improve their revenue for a period of time.
Right.
And the same thing, like when they have events going on, just looking at who attended or who engaged, who donated, who sponsored these events in previous years. That's the main way that I've seen them just understanding where the donors are coming from, what are the things that they have supported you in your organization in the past, and how they can support moving forward.
Yeah, we build out personas too for clients, and having that information and being able to track that and see what historically has happened, and then look for similarities between different users can help build out that kind of information, which can be super helpful when you're trying to figure out where to advertise or where to go, to put your efforts in terms of outreach. So I definitely see how a CRM could help with that component of the equation as well.
Yeah. I and with COVID and everything, there is one nonprofit that I support that last year they did an event, and they raised close to 500,000 for their event, and it was a record compared to previous years. And this is with COVID and a limited, they had to limit the number of tickets for their gala.
Right,
So,
I've seen that happen too with nonprofits that were able to actually outraise during the pandemic from a live event because they didn't have all of the overhead of producing a live event. So they were able to save a lot of money in that capacity. And then, that just went to their bottom line. So there's certainly some interesting things there. When tracking at an event, how do you recommend people just plug information in after the fact, or are there ways that you can get kind of real-time information during the event to plug into your CRM?
so there are two clients that come to mind, and they both used Greater Giving. One of them is moving to a different platform right now that is called ClickBid. So nobody is tracking what's happening in the event. During the event, they are enjoying the event, and they're just kind of like, oh, okay, we're trying to do an auction here and trying to move forward with what's happening in the event. So usually you're going to have information come in more before the event, which is the sponsorships, the tickets, and things like that. And then after the event, because live at the event time, there is a platform that is tracking it, but I'm not aware that any of them are there checking the numbers necessarily.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect them to check numbers during the event. It was more if there were systems that people could leverage so that they can streamline getting that information into the CRM. And I guess it just sounds to me like people plug that in after the fact, which is totally fine too.
Yeah. So let me break that down. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So with Greater Giving, that's one platform, and they can sell the tickets through Greater Giving. Greater Giving helps them to do their auction through it. And then the clients who are using Greater Giving, usually there is a Salesforce report that the data is already in the Salesforce and PSP format. So then we can pull that report right after and plug it in, import into Salesforce, and quickly have the numbers in Salesforce. One of my clients is using something called ClickBid right now. With ClickBid, there is a direct integration with Salesforce. So as the tickets are being purchased, we are already pushing the information into Salesforce. We can see, okay, these tickets have not been synced to Salesforce yet, or these things have not been synced yet. And then, the same thing for the auction. We'll be able to pull a report and show me all the auction items that haven't synced to Salesforce yet. And then we can just select them and do a push to Salesforce that an admin user at the nonprofit can do it. So with Greater Giving, usually that comes back to me, to the Salesforce consultant admin, to help them.
Right.
With ClickBid, I am seeing them being able to handle it themselves once they understand how to push that information through. There's one more option, which is Give Lively, Give Lively works well for events where you're just selling tickets.
Okay.
And I have a couple of clients and Give Lively, like one, I have a couple of clients who have it for donation, like the donation button on their website is tied to Give Lively, and they are also doing events and selling tickets with it.
That's great. So really just looking for integrations where the systems that you're using have at least some mechanism for an export or a direct tie-in to the CRM that you're using would be your recommendation on that.
Yes. I really like Give Lively. I think their integration looks really good. Clickbait is working. I think there is some room for improvement there. And then Greater Giving, it would be great if they would do a direct integration with Salesforce.
Right. What are some of the objections that you see with organizations who are moving, whether nonprofit or for profit, who are considering a move to a CRM? What are some of the things that people are concerned about that they think should keep them from making that switch?
Well, I think a lot of it is just a lack of understanding of how the system is going to support the organization and how things will come together in the system.
So they think it's going to take them more time to integrate this system than to just keep using whatever mechanism or lack thereof they're using today.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily that they think it's going to take more time. It's just like people don't know what they don't know, right? So then you get a business owner who has been in business for, um, 20 years, tracking things and managing their sales team with spreadsheets.
Right.
And then they want to, a new sales manager comes into the organization, which happened with me. This is all based on a real story. And then we need a CRM, and then you get in a meeting with the CEO, and then there's just resistance coming up, because then they're concerned, how is this going to integrate with the ERP system and this and that. But when I got the call from the sales manager, like the information I had about the ERP system is secondary. That's not a priority, because the biggest problem I have is I have no visibility over what my sales team is doing, because there's a spreadsheet. Don't tell me the emails they exchange. It's not as user friendly for them to log calls or activities or voicemails they left with potential clients, And then you are not moving forward because the CEO does not understand what it means or the benefits, and that's one of the things. It's just like people not really understanding the value of it and how it can improve collaboration in general. And it requires education, and some of them are open for it and others not so much. In this situation, this was this organization, it was a group of vets, so it's a little bit more old school, and they had the revenue to invest on a CRM system. But there was a lot of resistance and a lot of questioning. On the other hand, then you have other profiles where they are more kind of like they know they need to use a CRM. They want to use Salesforce because it is the leader in the market, and they have more understanding of this is not an overnight of the flip of a switch. It does take time to map the organization's business processes to the system, and then it also takes time bringing the team along, because even if the CEO is on board and is excited and wants to move things forward, then you have a whole team who is used to doing things the way they're used to,
Right.
And they're skeptical about how the system is going to help, what the
Right. It
system is going to
seems
do.
like more work for them up front, probably, where there's this new thing that they have to learn and they have to log their stuff in this deal, and it just feels like work as opposed to actually something that's going to benefit the business or even their sales, for example.
Yeah. So then let me. This is great. This is a great comment. Thank you, Stu.
Sure.
So my question for you is, I am not a salesperson, right? But I am, on the other hand, I have to sell, otherwise I cannot stay in business, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, and when you think about a good salesperson, what comes to mind?
Ooh, that's a good question. When I think about a good salesperson, I would say it's tenacity and organization would be kind of the two key attributes that I'd be looking for to bring in a person who's a good salesperson. That and honesty. I don't want someone who's going to oversell or just make up stuff in order to get a sale. Um, so I would say those three attributes would be what I would be looking for.
Yeah. So in that process, do you think they have a place where they're keeping notes about who
Yeah, well,
to
I would say
contact, when they need to contact?
the organizational piece would certainly play certainly play into that. I know, so I fill the role of salesperson at Relish Studio, and I know that there are lots of times when I used to joke that the best CRM is the one that you will use. So when people ask me, well, what CRM should I get? I'm like, well, just find one that's fine and just use it, and you'll be so far ahead of the game that you'll amaze yourself. And I recognize that there certainly are better and worse CRMs out there, but I do know that when my sales are lagging, it's usually because I've not taken the time to log things as effectively as I should, or put the systems in place that allow me to manage follow-ups effectively.
Yeah. So can we make the assumption that a good salesperson is going to have their notebook somewhere or something where they capture the information about these potential clients, about what
Yeah.
they need, about their preferences, about swags that they might have sent them.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who was a sales guy in when I was working corporate, and that's what he did. He would put in the CRM a note saying that this time I send mugs, this time I send mouse pads, just so he wouldn't be sending always the same swag to the
Yep.
to his accounts. And so what I say is, like, this resistance is, if you are a good person, a good employee, professional, doing your job well, regardless, sales or not sales, but because CRM tracks sales, I think that's one of the main roles that we talk about. It's likely that this person is tracking and making notes somewhere, and
Right.
where do you want to do it? Do you want to do it in just rely on your emails? You can, but your emails, they have a different purpose, which is communication.
Yep.
The email is not a relational database where you can navigate and get more context around that specific relationship.
Right.
So that's where, like, when the resistance comes up, that's what I try to talk to people and remind them. And some people are more open to it than others, so yeah.
Well, then there's an organizational benefit as well, where if all my notes are captured in some dusty old notebook that I have, and that's not searchable, so it's hard for me to use. No one on my team is going to be able to access any of that information and have an understanding of what's going on. For example, if I leave the company or get promoted to a different position, you want to be able to have that information available and accessible to the entire team. So that to me is such a huge benefit of a CRM, is just facilitating that piece.
Yes, I agree. Just everything that you log in a CRM is going to have a timestamp. It's going to have who logged when. It's going to give you more context about what's happening with that person, or if that with that organization, or with that potential project that you have in your sales pipeline.
Yeah. So when you're coaching organizations up on maybe it's the first time that they're integrating a CRM into their systems, what are some of the first things that you work with them on to make sure that the investment that they're making in both time and money is fruitful for them?
Yeah, I think my rule of thumb on that is try to meet them where they're at, and it's basically breaking down the concepts. I come from the perspective that I don't know what you know about CRMs or not.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably know enough for me to be here, but I don't want to make any assumptions. So let's go to the drawing board and talk about what is a CRM. And then I use, like, in Salesforce, there is something called the schema builder, where I can show, and then I build up on showing them the types of records that are in the system. There is a lead record. When do you use a lead record? And then the lead record converts into a contact and an account record. And sometimes you can convert into an account, contact, and opportunity record, and how they are all connected to each other. The contact, the account, and the opportunity are all connected to each other. That helps you to navigate. And so I use this schema builder because the data model, I explain basically the data model. And the data model, I try to provide analogies. I say, when you get a house, or when you build a house, or when you buy a house, usually you look at the floor plan, and the floor plan gives you information about the layout of the house. And at some point, those floor plans were used by your plumber, the electrician, in order to make everything work within the house. And with a system, the database is the equivalent, understanding the core data model of a CRM, because any CRM there on the business to business space is at the very minimum have contact, account, and opportunity. And then you have activities. So I start by showing those components, and then helping them. Okay, so now the next step is start adding data to the system, and add each one of those so you can understand and feel the system a little bit, So
you're really trying to show them the relationships between all of these states of being within their sales cycle. It sounds like where you show kind of visually, I'm guessing, how all of this information exists in relationship to all the other information.
Yes. So I start with the data model, and then after the data model, I go into, in addition to the data model, there is this processes that are built into the CRM, which is the lead process, right? Where you have the different stages of the lead, just so you can identify if someone is qualified and makes sense to be part of your database or not. And then contacts and the opportunity, the sales process around the sales pipeline, and how that can be customized in terms of stages, in terms of automations that you can use in order to have a consistent process where you have all the steps under each stage showing up in the system consistently for your team to always follow those steps, you know?
Right. So essentially just laying out where people come into the system, where they have, what phase of their involvement they currently reside in, and then being able to help track that progress through that sales pipeline.
Yeah. So once I do this initial coaching around, what is a CRM? How does it fit? Then I start digging deeper in order to customize their data model, because part of the implementation is to understand, okay, what are the business processes you have in your organization, and how does your business processes fit this CRM data model that has contacts, accounts, and opportunities.
Right.
And sometimes, like especially nonprofits who are more focused on the fundraising side, Salesforce with NPSP fits like a glove. It's all there. It's mostly built in. You might need to do a few tweaks, but not much.
Okay.
And then there are other situations where, in addition to tracking the fundraising, they also want to track their programs within the system, right?
Right.
Salesforce has a program management module. The nonprofits that I've worked with were not a good fit for that program management. I think that program management is very robust and it's good for bigger nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
The smaller nonprofits I'm working with, we ended up doing something more custom.
Gotcha. How much should an organization budget for setting up and managing and I guess licensing their CRM?
Okay,
do you look at that as a percentage of their income, or how should they start that process of trying to figure out what they need to spend?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one for me to answer, because like the nonprofit clients I ended up working with, they came to me because of a referral or something else, and they were willing to spend the money, or they saw a presentation or they saw something and they were willing to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
For a brand new nonprofit, I don't have those numbers, Stu. I would think that it's about their priorities. In reality, is what is their goal? If their goal is to increase efficiencies within the organization and save time,
Mm-hmm.
the CRM system can help that. But it's not free. With Salesforce, they can get up to 10 licenses for free, but the implementation costs money, and
Right.
you can do implementations between 5 to 9, 15,000. It depends. It depends on the scope. It depends on who you are working with, and it depends. Like I've seen nonprofits who did not have much of a budget, but the CRM was a priority, because they had a system before, and that system was no longer supported by their like this was one of my clients is Rise Above Colorado. They had a Oracle database that was part of the MEF project, and all organizations that were tied to the MEF project had access to that. But then they canceled their subscription to that, and told all their MEF project affiliates to go and use Salesforce. So then he had all his data in spreadsheets and did not know how to, turn on the keys of the car, basically, in a way. He wasn't sure how to get that into Salesforce. And he was working with an IT provider who is a dear friend of mine, great guy who supports a lot of nonprofits as well, David. And David looked at it, and then he looked under the hood a little bit and he said, I think this is a great system, but I think you need to get someone who can help you. And in the beginning, like, it was costly, like we built quite a few things that first year, but then after that, like, year over year, I think we are, I don't know, around less than 50 hours in a year.
Okay. That's good to know. And certainly there's training on the front end in terms of getting your team up and running, and understanding how the systems work. And then there will be ongoing costs associated with running a CRM, not only the licensing costs, but just having your team in there. But again, coming back to that mindset shift, that this is something that's supposed to not only save you and your entire organization time, but help facilitate and speed up those transactions. So whether that's a donation or a sale, the idea here is that you're investing in a system that's going to improve your opportunities and your ability to get those things done.
Yeah. So can I share a little bit more about this particular organization, Rise Above?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because with them, it was really interesting. One of their biggest pain points with them, we do much more on the programming side, in terms of customizing the system to track their programs.
Okay.
And what they do is they try to provide content for middle school and high school kids to keep them away from using drugs.
Right.
So it's that, I don't know if positive psychology is the term here, but they're trying to counteract the negative voices by providing a positive voice and a positive space. And their operation is nimble and strategic. And what do I mean by that? Like, they have about less than 10 people in their team, and they produce content. And then before they were using Salesforce, and before we started using Salesforce to track it, people would log in and see their content, and that information would go into spreadsheets. And it was really difficult to see who is coming back, who is watching their content more than once, and how many students are we really reaching,
Mm-hmm.
With the spreadsheets, without having that relational database where you can roll up some of those numbers to give you more concrete data.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not getting it. And then however, we had this older spreadsheet, so we imported the data from those older spreadsheets. And within the first year, we saw an uptick of 146% in terms of their increase in their reach, in terms of reaching more students and more youth with their content.
Wow.
Because
that's a huge increase in a year.
Yes, because once all the data was in Salesforce, then we could send a blast email to 800. It's between 800 and 1800. I know it's a big difference, but
right.
Bear with me. But we can send we could send them an email saying, hey, there's new content from Rise Above that you can share with your students. And that's what they do. So let me share just a little bit more. Rise Above Colorado has, they produce content, and their content is produced by teams, actually. They have something called Teen Action Council. So it's a select number of students who apply to the Teen Action Council every year. And this smaller number of students help to produce the content. And so it's content for teens, produced by teens, just so their voice, it can really reach them. Otherwise, it's easy for 46-year-old lady to be saying something, don't use drugs, that, that is just not enough. But anyways, so talking their own language, and then they cultivate their relationships with people in the community, like teachers in middle schools and high schools, but not only teachers, people at Boys and Girls Clubs and other organizations who are in front of teenage kids,
Right.
Teenagers in general, and that's how that's why I say they're very strategic, because they are not a lot of nonprofits are cultivating those relationships directly with their constituents, or touching their constituents more directly than Rise Above does. So
Gotcha. And so they're leveraging the tools that you help them set up to make sure that they're tracking against those touch points and staying in front of people at the right times.
yes. So when people go in their websites and log in their information, that information falls into Salesforce. There is some custom code done into it to link it to the correct records in the system. Mm-hmm. And then we have dashboards that shows which content is getting more views, more traction, and what is the profile of the people accessing it, like teachers versus students and things like that, and tracking the number of students who are benefiting, who are being exposed to their content.
Right. No, it's amazing. I mean, it just all speaks to the power of technology. And when you have a tool and you're taking that tool out of the toolkit, so to speak, and using it on a regular basis, how much better you can be at what you're doing.
Yes.
So I can't believe it's been an hour since we started talking about this. It's amazing. I'm fascinated by, content relations management, customer relations management tools like Salesforce, among others. And it's always so cool to hear how we can all just do a little bit better job of managing our information, so that we can do a better job of helping the world or selling more widgets or whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. How can people find out more about you if they're interested in learning more about CRMs, or how you can help them integrate into a new system?
Yes, they can connect with me on LinkedIn and check out our website, CRM Growth Strategy. In our website, there is the option to schedule a discovery session where we get to know each other, to understand more about what they're looking for and see if it's a good fit for us to work together.
Awesome. Well, I really enjoy having these kinds of conversations and learning more about how people can up their game just through integration with tools like CRMs. But I also really want people to take action after listening to our conversations. If there was anything that you would want people to do after listening to the show today, what would you have them do?
What would I have them do?
Yeah, what action would you want people to take?
If they're already using a CRM, spring is here. And one of my clients reminded me of spring cleaning. And I think this is a great time of the year to do a CRM spring cleaning.
Okay. What does that entail?
It entails to taking a look at your data in your system, reviewing your contacts, looking at when was the last time you contacted your closest clients, the clients you're actively working with, just picking up the phone, giving them a call and check in with them. How is it going? What is going on with you? What is it that I can do to support you during this time? Back to one of the main reasons why people should have a CRM is there's a lot of research. There is a Harvard Business Review article about how much it's 60 to 70% more likely that you can get an engagement or more revenue from an existing client than versus like 10 to less than 10% of likelihood of you engaging with a brand new client,
Yeah.
And my numbers might not be 100% accurate, but you get the gist of it. so, so that's what it is. It's just like cultivating those relationships with your existing clients, reviewing your engagements with them, and thinking through a little bit. Okay, this client, we've done XYZ last year, and so many things changed in the last couple of years. So in the context of all these changes with COVID and all that, what is it? What is it that we can do here to provide them value? And reaching out, having a conversation, and sometimes just like even asking for feedback, hey, give me some feedback about our engagement here. Is there anything we could have done better? Is there anything that you have to share in your experience? Because that gives you insight into how you are impacting. Sometimes I don't know either. Sometimes I realize that clients are getting value out of something that in my mind is just so well established that does not make a difference. But then I hear them saying, oh, those loan videos are so good. It feels like you're right next to me when I'm watching them. And I am,
it's amazing. It's amazing what you can dig out when you're actually tracking information.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was really awesome talking with you. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lidi. Bye.
Bye.
And there you have it, another great episode of Relish This. Thanks again for listening. You can find past episodes of the show at relishthis.org. And remember, if you liked what you heard today, please subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information on purpose marketing, grab your free copy of my book, Mission Uncomfortable: How Nonprofits Can Embrace Purpose-Driven Marketing to Survive and Thrive. Get your copy now at missionuncomfortablebook.com.